Welcome to WikiAfrica Hour, where Africa's Wikimedians talk to, learn from, and discuss with each other topics they choose. Each session is curated by African Wikimedians to expand Africa's open movement. Today's host is Ceslas Obanyaya.
Hello, lovers of the open movement. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the episode 20 of WikiAfrica Hour, titled Open Gatherings, One Movement. Since there's no deadline to wishing one a Happy New Year, please permit me to say Happy New Year to you all. My name is Ceslas Obanyaya, and I'm your host. As a movement, our collective Wikimedia conferences changed a lot in terms of how they run during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, some believe the pandemic increased participation in the various Wikimedia conferences. Some others are of the opinion that nothing beats the in-person Wikimedia conferences, as most of our lives as Wikimedians are lived almost entirely remotely. It is another year and another Wikimedia cycle has begun, with a couple of conferences on the horizon for 2023. What has changed in Wikimedia conferences since after COVID-19 lockdowns? Is the Wikimedia movement fully back to in-person conferences? Why does 2023 Wikimania conference have an option of volunteering at Wikimania instead of the usual post-conference report by scholarship awardees? And many other questions we as movement would love answered. Today, we have very special guests amongst us who have experience organizing or planning one Wikimedia conference or another, from Wiki Indaba to Wiki Convention Francophone to Wikimania, and now the new kid on the block, the Wikimedia Youth Conference by Wiki Vibrance. First, we have Derrick Ndahiro. Derrick is from Rwanda. He started participating in Wikimedia activities since 2019, where he participated in WikiGap events in Uganda and later participated in the regional Wikimedia strategy workshop in Kampala, Uganda. He is the founder and the president of Wikimedia Community User Group Rwanda. He was the lead for planning and organizing of the 2022 Wiki Indaba conference, which was held in Kigali, Rwanda. Next, we have Euphemia Uwandu. Euphemia is from Nigeria. She joined the Wikimedia movement in February 2019. She is the founder of the Wiki Vibrance project. She is a member of the Middle East and Africa Regional Grants Committee and is also Senior Content Campaign Organizing Fellow at the Foundation. She currently is the organizing lead for the upcoming Wikimedia Youth Conference 2023. Then we have Bustria. Butch is a Filipino Wikimedian who is based in Singapore. He joined the movement in December 2005 with a series of edits about the Philippines hosting of the Southeast Asian Games. He is a member of the Wikimedia Steering Committee. Butch currently is the event leader of the Wikimedia Core Organizing Team and the chair of its program subcommittee for 2023 Wikimedia Conference. Next, we have Gnangarra, who is a Wikimedia contributor based in Australia. Gnangarra joined the movement in 2005 and first contributed to Commons in February 2006. By June 2006, he created the Commons Quality Project category to help address the lack of high quality user created images. He is the former president of Wikimedia Australia. He also was part of the team that organized the 2022 ESEAP, which stands for East and Southeast Asia and Pacific Conference, and then led the scholarship process. He also has served in the Wikimania 2020 and 2021 Core Organizing Team and was specifically in charge of the scholarships program. Gnangarra currently is the chair of the scholarship subcommittee for the 2023 Wikimedia Conference and also a member of the steering committee who are currently deciding on future Wikimanias for 2024, 2025, and 2026. So if you want to see what future Wikimania will look like, Gnangarra is your guy. Next, we have Vanj Padilla, the Wikipedian and a volunteer under the Wikipedia Pangasinan group project. She has been in the Wikimedia community since 2012 as a member of the defunct Wikimedia Philippines and was adopted by the Feel Wiki community. She is a co-founder of the new women community of Filipino Wikimedians, Barbailan, Philippines. She was involved as a local coordinator of the Philippines pilot of the Reading Wikipedia in the Classroom project. Vanj Padilla is the co-lead of the Documentation and Event Communication Subcommittee and also leading the social media activities. And lastly, we have Emmanuelle Kakou, who is a Wikimedian from Ivory Coast. She has been a Wikimedian since 2014. She also serves as admin support for Wikimedia Cote d'Ivoire from time to time, and also a program manager with Wikimedia Cote d'Ivoire. She is a member of the core organizing team for the 2023 Wiki Convention Francophone Conference, built to hold in Ivory Coast in November 2023. Please make welcome these guests as we engage them. But then first, I would like to let you know that we have divided these guests into two panels. The panel one, of course, will be made up of the members of the 2023 Wikimania co-organizing team and also the representatives from the Wikimedia Youth Conference. In that light, I say hello to you, Butch, Gnangarra, Miss Vanj, Padilla, and Euphemia. Thank you all for being here today. Please introduce yourselves briefly, just your name and maybe a line, starting with you, Euphemia.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here with all of you. My name is Euphemia Uwandu, and I'm joining currently from Nigeria. And I'm a Wikimedian and also the organizing lead for the upcoming Wikimedia Youth Conference. Good to see all
Thank
of
you,
you
Euphemia.
once again.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Vanj.
Hello there. I'm Vanj Padilla. I'm currently in the Philippines and I'm a member of the Core Organizing Team of Wikimania 2023.
Thank you so much for that. And over to you, Butch.
Hi, I'm Butch Bustria. I'm currently in Singapore, a Filipino by blood, and I've been editing Wikimedia projects since 2005. And what motivates me in this endeavor is the diversity of the East and Southeast Asia and the Pacific, and we would like to showcase that to the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to you, Gnangarra.
Oh, hello. I'm Gnangarra. I'm part of the Wikimania Core Organising Team and currently running the scholarships process, and will also be organising the expo space a little bit later on.
Thank you, Gnangarra. And over to you, Derrick.
Hello, my name is Derrick. It's a pleasure in meeting you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be hearing more from Derrick during the second panel while we are waiting for Emmanuelle to arrive. Thank you, Derrick. Now, coming back to you, Butch. The Wikimania 2023 theme says diversity, collaboration, future. How did the core organizing team arrive at this theme? What does this theme mean for the entire components of the 2023 Wikimania conference?
Okay, thank you for that. We've been preparing for Wikimania unbelievably since 2019, and the theme was actually conducted via survey through across all the countries of the East and Southeast Asia and the Pacific, with a theme, and they got motivated that we should showcase the rich diversity of the ECAP region and also the rich diversity of the movement. And then we also aim that the conference will further improve collaboration, partnerships, and then the future. What entails us in the future, because we've been talking about the Wikimedia movement strategy and a lot of movers and shakers that might potentially adopt future technologies. So we come up with this team. We finalized this team in our recent East and Southeast Asia and the Pacific, or ECAP conference in Sydney last November. And we come up with three powerful words: that's diversity, collaboration, and future. It would indicate the future of promoting diversity and inclusivity in the Wikimedia movement, encouraging collaboration and partnerships between groups within the movement, and exploring the future direction and potential of Wikimedia projects.
Nice to know that this theme was well chosen in advance. I mean, talk about 2019, before COVID sent us all back home. And yes, if, like you rightly said, I mean, if the Wikimedia movement were to have a motto, I think it would, be around that diversity, collaboration, and of course, the future. Thank you for that insight on how you guys came about the theme. And then, but I took a look at the line of activities. I mean, between the pre-conference and the post-conference activities for the 2023 Wikimania, there are about 6 days of interesting events, if I would say. But you are the events lead here for the second conference. Could you please explain the plan to us? I mean, why a whole 6 days?
Yeah, it is really surprising. This might be the largest Wikimedia to date in terms of length and potentially the hours. We make sure that there's a fair balance between those who are going to Singapore and also participating in the online component of Wikimania. That also includes the hybrid component. Typically, conference like Wikimania would have this pre-conference activities. So the pre-conference activities includes tutorials, workshops, meetups that takes place before the main conference. These activities are often designed to provide attendees with an opportunity to learn new skills, network with other attendees, and get to know the local community. The main conference itself would typically include the variety of events such as the keynote speeches, panel discussions, presentations that focus with our theme, diversity, collaboration, and future, and other relevant topics. And there will be opportunities for attendees to interact and network during the breaks and social events, especially our expo space that will be introduced in this conference. Post-conference activities such as it could be an excursion like a photo walk, a visit to the National Library. Workshops are common to provide attendees with opportunity to explore the local area, Singapore, and continue learning and collaborating with each other, because it's Sunday, everyone's is free, so everyone will be able to have time to collaborate with each other. As this 6 days plan, we likely to have planned that duration of this account, the conference team and the number of attendees. 6 days would provide a balance between providing enough time for attendees to participate in all events that they are interested in, while not making it too long and too tiring. It allows attendees to plan also to travel and stay in advance, including the online component.
Thank you for that detailed explanation, Butch. I really could see reason why, I mean, it was stretched to that, because while in Rwanda for the Wiki Indaba, I wish we had 6 days at least. Why? Because the the networking opportunities are usually so many, but then you could only catch up with people either at the lunch or breakfast table, which doesn't really give room, for people to get into details of the networking. So yes, I'm looking forward to hopefully enjoying the 6 day um, line of activities at the upcoming Wikimania. Thank you so much, Butch. And coming to you, Vanj, you are responsible for leading the social media activities, but then the um, social activities for the upcoming Wikimania would also be interesting to us. I remember you mentioned it's still in the works, but what line of social activities are we looking at? Butch mentioned maybe seeing some local sites, but could you please shed
Yes.
more light if possible?
Butch has already mentioned some of the exciting activities to be looked forward to for Wikimania. But there are also side activities that the participants coming from all over the world might want to do on their own or with their community, with their friends, with their families, if they want to take their families. Of course, it would be exciting to know that most of the Wikipedia or Wikimedia related activities are already integrated in the program, which is quite interesting because it's composed of 6 days, as you have mentioned. And maybe perhaps we could attribute it to the fact that there is a so called we missed Wikimania kind of feeling from the global community because there was no Wikimania since 2019. What I mean is the in-person event because of the pandemic, and everyone was restricted to our own communities through the lockdowns. And now is the time to perfectly revenge tourism, as they call it. So you go out to the beautiful country in Singapore, which is a very vibrant kind of community. And because it's a state island or island state where it everything is just confined into a place which is in the within the area within just the things are very near, the places are very near, the tourist destinations are very near, and it boasts also of a high tech country, and the tech companies are also there, and we might just want to have other activities such as photo walks, um, what else, meetups with other communities or friends and families, tourism trips that could be for the what do you call that, the wiki commons kind of activities and others, because technically you can almost um, do some of the or most of the tourism sites in Singapore within areas, because transportation is very nice. They have a very vibrant energy, and the master plan in Singapore is to be uh, observed. So the side activities, the social activities that we can do, it's up to the participants. So that is the reason why in the social media accounts of Wikimania, we are really promoting for the attendees to come and explore, make their travel plans as early as possible so that they can cover as much when they arrive in Singapore.
Yeah, thank you so much. That actually makes sense for those of us who have never visited Singapore. I mean, we just see it in movies or maybe on Al Jazeera or CNN. It's a beautiful country to behold, and something you actually said about, I mean, getting back to in-person Wikimania. Trust me, Vanj, the feeling is different. I remember, Wiki Indaba, for instance, the hugs, the handshakes, they were so firm and very emotional. So yes, as much as we are looking forward to the conference activities, the social activities also, I believe people would definitely want to enjoy those. Thank you so much, Vanj, for sharing details of that. And coming to you, Gnangarra, you've worked on the Wikimedia Scholarships Committee at least more than once. For 2023, we see that there is a volunteer engagement at the conference as an alternative to the traditional post-conference reporting system we're used to. Nagara, what is the scholarships subcommittee hoping to achieve with this new style?
There's a lot of things we're hoping to achieve. The big one is that when people write reports at the end of the event, very rarely do they have a significant impact of any kind. And what we've looked at is how do we get more value out of a Wikimania? And one of those things is it's the human interaction. It's the talking to people, the meeting new people, discussing all of those types of things that we all do as Wikimedians, but we seem to do in isolation, sitting at home in front of a keyboard. So what we're doing is we're encouraging that instead of just writing a report that'll get read by a couple of people and nothing else will happen with it, we are saying, well, this year let's try something a little bit different and let's encourage people to be active participants. So as volunteers, we're asking you to join the expo space, to be able to talk to other Wikimedians or people who haven't had the experience in, say, Commons or Wikidata or Source or, Wiktionary or one of the other many sites that we all work together on in the movement, that you can learn a bit more from each other and learn new tasks. You can sit down and say, well, how do I do a Wikidata query, and have someone who's experienced with it show you, so you can take it back to your community and show other people. We've also got some background work where we need volunteers to help with uploading photos and media to Commons and keeping other areas updated as well. So we're trying to encourage the people receiving scholarships to be an active part and to really get involved in the whole event.
That makes absolute sense, Nangara. I mean, I could relate to the fact that maybe just writing reports might not make enough contact, by the way, because, I mean, people that are fairly new might not even know how to navigate to where they could read the reports. But then having them hands-on the various volunteer duties at the conference, yes, that obviously creates more contact. That could be much more beneficial to what you're trying to achieve. Thank you for highlighting that very important point, Nangara. And then coming to the scholarship itself, the application. From the time one clicks submit on the scholarship form, Nangara, could you explain what happens to the rest of the application, or what happens to the rest of the way? What does the scholarship selection look like? Any stipulated criteria?
Yep. What will happen is that once you've clicked submit, come the 5th of February, anywhere on Earth when the scholarship process is closed, we'll start 3 different phases of assessing the scholarship. So the first one will be the foundation, looking or the Foundation Trust and Safety staff, looking to make sure that none of the people that are on the application list have community bans or other issues that prevent them from attending a Wikimania in person. Then there's the scholarship subcommittee who will review your applications, and their review is based on those last 4 or 5 questions, which is why we really encourage everyone to put links to things that they've done rather than to write words, because we know that some people are fantastic at putting databases together, but aren't so great at writing a story about the things they've done. Whereas if you can give us a link, that'll tell us that story. It's the same that there's some fantastic photographers out there who can tell a story in a picture, but if you ask them to put it to words, they struggle to do that. There are people, we're working with 300 language communities. English isn't common for everyone, so what we're relying on is put links in there, so we'll assess based on that information. And then the final phase is the most complex of it, and that is balancing the numbers. So we've got about 200 spaces, scholarships available, and we want to give an even distribution. We want to, obviously there's some advantages to being an ECAP. We want to encourage people from Africa as well, because it's so easy to get visas from Africa into Singapore, and that if we look at in the future places like Europe and North America, that's very difficult to attend an event. So for the African community, Singapore's a great opportunity to attend. So we are going to put some additional spaces available for those communities. And then the final phase of it is sending out the offers to everyone and saying, hey, okay, you were successful. Do you still want to come? Because circumstances will always change between January and April by the time we get to this stage. So we give people the time to say, well, yes, no, make the arrangements, organise flights, so that by the end of the process in May, we can say to everyone, okay, these are all the people that are coming, and you can start looking at, okay, well, unfortunately you weren't successful, but we'll have an online component. There will still be opportunities to present through the online system rather than just being there in person. And there'll be other ways to connect and organise community events and stuff so that people can sit back and watch some of the sessions. So this is indeed one of the hardest or most complex scholarship processes we've actually gone into with the Wikimania, whereas before it was just, okay, we decide who gets to travel, we organise it, that's it, end of story for the scholarship process. So we've got a lot more steps to it, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible for as many people, and sorry about my cat, to be involved in some way and to experience Wikimania.
Thank you so much, Gnangarra. I totally agree with the steps you just outlined. This definitely could be the most complex application process to screen so far in the history of Wikimedia scholarships. But then something you actually said really struck me. I mean, the fact that Africa was actually taken into consideration why, let's say, choosing the destination and things like that, and then having an additional slot to make sure that the African community is actually well represented at the conference. Thank you so much, Gnangarra. That is very good to know. And then coming to the other question I have for you, Gnangarra, while I was going through the scholarship form for the upcoming EduWiki conference, I actually noticed that they have provision for self-funded attendees. I think the Rights Conference coming up in Costa Rica also has that feature. But Gnangarra, I don't remember, seeing such communication around the upcoming Wikimania. Is there somewhere or is there a plan to enable self-sponsored participants to attend? What are the plans, if any?
Yeah, absolutely. There are plans to open it up to self-funded attendees. We are thinking in the terms of numbers of about 1,000 attendees, about 100 WMF staff, 200 scholars. That leaves us 700 self-funded or funded from other community groups in the way of attendees. So we will be opening a registration process a little bit later on, around about May, June at the moment, May, hopefully. The exact dates haven't been worked out or confirmed yet, but there'll definitely be the opportunity for everyone who is able to attend without the support of a scholarship to also attend.
Awesome. At least that way, those of them who wouldn't be selected could and possibly could finance themselves can still get to attend. Thank you so much, Nangara, for mentioning that there is that provision. Over to you, Ms. Padilla. You are also co-lead for the Documentation and Event Communication Subcommittee. And could you walk us through the role of the Documentation and Event Communication Subcommittee?
Our documentation is reliant on the production company and the events company that the Wikimedia Foundation is contacting or partnering with or hiring for Wikimania 2022. They will directly work with the technical committee for the Wikimania 2023. What we are responsible with for the Wikimania 2023 is not only for the documentation, but of course the promotion, the communications, and letting everyone know from across various channels or platforms on how can people outside of Singapore or those that are virtually participating in Wikimania to access the contents that are available for them during the entirety of the Wikimania 2023. So the documentation is not only tasked to the events committee or to the communications team or communications committee, but also with the other committees of Wikimania, such as the technical committee, the events and production, the production and events or production team, as well as the independent events team that is being hired by the foundation.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know how it is being handled. But then, Vanj, we are in an open movement, and since this is being, contracted to a company that is not part of the movement, if I would say, how is the documentation process and maybe storage programmed in terms of accessibility and consumption by interested parties?
Actually, just like in the other Wikimanias that have come before 2023, the foundation already has set guidelines and implementing rules about the documentation. And prior to the Wikimania, we are already uh, slowly or gradually fixing the documentation in accordance with the other committees, such as the programming committee. How are we going to document the programs, and how are we going to be able to make such a way that every program or every content for the Wikimedia will be accessible to everyone, not only in those who are attending in person, but most primarily to those that are attending online or those that will consume the content even after the Wikimania 2023. So documentation is also part of the communications team, having to work with translators and other language experts in delivering the whole of Wikimania, from the um, most important parts or events um, to the smaller events that are part of the entire 6 days of the event.
Yes. If we are going to have, I mean, a whole 6 days of amazing events, the documentation, of course, it's going to be a serious business. And I mean, let's see how it goes, and we hope it could be made, much more accessible beyond the Wikimedia committee. At least let those of us who perhaps would like to consume some of its content get to do so. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Miss
it's a long,
Padilla.
like it's a long haul. It's not going
Oh,
to be on a click of a hand and then it's going to be
of course.
available. It's a long haul, especially if we are
Of
going to
course.
curate the content to be strategized and sent to other, not only for the audience of the Wikimania, but for other relevant communities or events that might use what is the Wikimania content on their communities or on the movement as a whole. So it's going to be a long haul. We just need to be patient, but we are getting there. As long as the communities and the volunteers are willing to work with everyone, then anything can happen.
Yes, I mean, talk about patience. I don't see any Wikimedian who is not very patient with things. But then, thank you for emphasizing that it's going to be a long haul. Thank you so much, Miss Padilla. Coming over to you, Butch. The 2023 Wikimedia Scholarship application closes on the 5th February. But when do we get to maybe see the program submission open? What would the program screening and selection process look like, bearing in mind the theme of the 2023 Wikimania? We can't hear you, Butch.
The program selection process or application will commence on the latter part of February. So the program subcommittee is already been formed or constituted, and we already forming out a good formula or set of questions that will be asked to any proponent uh, of the conference, both speaking and presenting, doing workshops, both on site and also online, and also those who would like to do hybrid events. We also allocated some space for those who would like to pre-record their videos, so we would be able to play it during breaks or even on video on demand. So that's one of the innovations that will be introduced this year. The call for proposals will initially starts when we typically invite members of the community to submit ideas, presentations, workshops, and other events, and then that followed by once it will typically run for about a month, and then it will proceed to the review and selection process, wherein a team of reviewers, which includes members of the organizing committee, community representatives, subject matter experts, would then review the proposals and select and align to our conference theme, which is diversity, collaboration, and future, offering a diverse range of perspective and meet the objectives of our conference. That followed by the program development. Once the proposals have been selected, the program will be developed and refined to ensure that all that it provides a balanced and comprehensive range of events that meet the needs and interest of our attendees and of course our viewers who will be watching live stream and also watching a video on demand. The we organizers would also likely consider diversity and inclusion on program development, ensuring that the speakers, facilitators, mentors are representative of the community, taking steps to create a welcome and inclusive environment to all of the attendees and viewers of the Wikimania on live stream and also on video on demand. The final program will be announced to the attendees and to the public closer to the event, and the organizers will promote it widely at a diverse range of attendees from all over the world. That's what we plan for the conference. So our program subcommittee is about around 15 members, so that's composed of representatives of various Wikimedians all across the globe.
Thank you for that clarification, Butch. I am personally happy to know that the process involves some subject matter experts. That is really going to make sure that the programs that are really worthwhile get to be selected for the conference itself. Thank you so much. And coming to you, Euphemia, talk about patient Wikimedian. Hello, Euphemia. I know you've been very patient. Yeah, Euphemia, you are actually our way into a different event. I mean, we've been all about Wikimania since we started this session. The first ever Wikimedia Youth Conference is in the works to happen this year. Euphemia, what is the definition of youth within the Wikimedia context? And why a youth conference?
Thank you so much, Ceslaus. So this is a question that a lot of us in the movement is struggling to answer and understand. And it's actually very sweet to see that since the Wiki Vibrance was started and now we are talking about a youth conference, that this question is popping up more frequently in the movement, pointing to the need for us to have an answer around this. And the difficulty in trying to understand this points to a lot of factors, one of which is about the varying age definition in regions and in countries. For example, looking at the UN age definition, which is about 15 to 24, and then looking at what AU says is the youth definition for people in Africa, which is about 15 to 35. And then when we trickle down to some countries like Germany, we are understanding that young people are those who are between the ages of 14 to about 21. And in order to answer this question, actually, it's very important that it's not just a decision of a few. And of course, also bringing in the people who will the decision will be made for, which are the young people, to also be part of that decision making process. Of course, taking into consideration the youth definition in these regions and in countries. And in our section in the Wiki Indaba 2022, it was a moment for us to understand how people in the movement wants to understand and learn about the exciting and effective ways of not just engaging young people, but also retaining them in the movement, seeing how they are critical to the movement sustainability, and also how unique this age population is. And then we also understand that from some of our interaction with young people in the movement that we have a lot of youth activities and groups scattered all over the movement, many of which doesn't even understand some of where these activities are happening or even the faces behind some of these activities. Bringing on spot, for example, the youth group from the Wikimedia Germany, for example, that has been there for us as far back as about 2027. And yet, with all of the work we have learned they are doing and how they are also organizing themselves to take action as young people, only a few people outside of that community even understands that these people are in existence and the kind of work they are doing. And then we also look at outside of that community in Africa, in Asia, and a lot of other places where we have youth activities and youth groups. Who doesn't understand that there are other youth groups or youth activities happening outside of their community and outside of their region or country? We realize that if we must answer these very important questions, it's important to bring young people from different regions and communities in a single space to really understand what the experiences has been like for them and what kind of challenges they are facing and how we can come together instead of working in silos, but more like strengthening our work, building structures and synergizing all that we have been doing as one collective group. And of course, also bearing in mind that young people are also more open to each other than they are to other age population. So this is why we are seeing a youth conference as a very fertile ground to bring all of these issues into one place and look at it from how we can bring both solutions and opportunities to solve them.
Wow, these are sounds like we have a litany of young people's problems to solve, and probably we can get to start to discussing these problems with a conference where we have every of these young people from various communities in one space. Thank you so much for that elaborate explanation on what youth is, possibly, and why we need a conference. And then Euphemia, the upcoming Wikimedia Youth Conference is preparing to debut in Alicante, Spain. Are there reasons behind this choice of location? I mean, don't you want me to attend? You should have brought it to Africa or something. Please share with us if there are reasons for your choice of location.
So it's a funny one, but as I had mentioned that we are looking at a way of aggregating all of the effort of young people, including those that are also supporting the journey of young people, understanding that young people cannot have this work alone, but of course with the support of people who have also once been young and understand some of these things and like lend a helping hand to them towards making a better journey. And while we have interacted with people from different regions and in different places, we have learned that the degree of our um, presence of young people in different regions differs, even in communities. I recall that Winnie from Wikimedia Kenya was doing some kind of mapping about last year to understand, for example, the participation of young people in Africa. And I was actually also part of that conversation. But from that mapping, I'm not sure if it's published yet or not, but from that mapping, we understood that about 80% of young people in Africa make up the Wikimedia communities, showing the light that these people serve as important backbone of these communities. But then when we step out of this region to other regions or even communities, we are realizing that the story is not the same. For example, some communities like Wikimedia Spain, we are seeing like people that I think about the youngest age of maybe the categories of the youth age I've mentioned here today should be like, I think the youngest there should be about 30, 32 to 35 or less. And then the rest of the people who are there are like above that age range. And then seeing how important that if we must talk about the sustainability of the movement, it can't really happen without young people. right? Because we also need like people who like coming into that continuity space. And looking at Wikimedia Spain with that kind of understanding, we want to use this as a strategic ground to build the useful population of that community, while also leveraging on the work we did last year when we had the European Youth Day in that region, trying to build partnership with the Youth Institute, and how we can also tap into other youth movements who are not part of the Wikimedia community, but where we can build some kind of partnership and collaboration and fertilize the work we are doing in our various capacities. So this is why we are taking it to that location in Spain.
Okay. At least now I know that you are not taunting me for not knowing Spanish. It actually makes absolute sense that the youth that work around the respective Wikimedia projects get to stomp the ground and create awareness in somewhere like Spain, which could rub off on, who knows, the entire European zone or Schengen zone. And I like the idea that there is already a partnership in the work with the Youth Institute there. That way, words could easily spread about this conference and get to have as many as possible young people in attendance. Thank you so much for sharing those details, Euphemia. And then the last question for you, Euphemia. I mean, getting a nod from the Wikimedia Foundation seems to be the easy part of any conference. What measures are you putting in place? By you, I mean you and the Wiki Vibrance team, to ensure that the first Wikimedia Youth Conference becomes a success and that perhaps it would stand the test of time?
Yeah, like I had previously mentioned, we have always realized that the journey of young people cannot happen alone, right? They have to be like accompanied on that journey. And bearing this in mind, and for the youth conference we are planning, we are tapping into a lot of knowledge from people who are already with that conference experience or even movement experience, to adopt them as mentors or advisors, where we can, to ensure that any blind spot will not just go unattended to. But also beyond that, we are also making sure that diversity and regional representation comes into play. Uh, we also want to give young people the opportunity to be bold and creative with this, right? But we are also making sure that we are taking into account young people from different regions, ensuring that at least the voice of any particular region is being represented during the planning stage and during the implementation stage. And we are also rooting for a kind of appearance in Wikimania, hoping that maybe we can also use that as an entry point for us to create more outreach and visibility for the upcoming conference, and also talk about some of these points I have raised here today, for people to also understand that these things are really there and needs to be addressed. But more importantly, about the future of the conference, we also want to use this first outing to really build young Wikimedians that will learn to really be accountable to whatever decision, whatever outcomes we are going to produce from that conference, making sure that by the time it's come and gone, we are not just going there to just have a conference, but ensure that every of the solution or ideas that are going to emerge from that gathering will be very important for us to follow up on them and make sure that they are implemented even before the next round, possibly.
Wow. Permit me to say that this might be happening this year, but it seems you've been planning this from inception, and you actually have most of these points in your pocket already, in terms of making sure of course, the first edition goes well, and that there is room for continuity as regards the Wikimedia Youth Conference. Thank you so much, Euphemia. And thank you very much, Butch, Gnangarra, Vanj, and Euphemia once again for answering the questions raised so far. Hopefully, someone from the audience would have a question or two for any of you during the Q&A segment of the session. With that, we proceed to the panel two, where we have the Wiki Indaba representative and the Wiki Convention Francophone representative. Hello, Derrick and Emmanuelle.
Yes, good evening.
Oh, so you heard me gushing over the past weekend, Indaba, and you started to rub it in with a picture of the conference center. Welcome, Derrick.
Oh,
You led the
thank you
organizing
so much.
team
Yeah.
for the planning. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry about that. I think the
It's
echo
okay.
was getting to the other room. Yeah. You led the organizing team for the planning of the first post-COVID in-person Wiki Indaba that took place last November in Rwanda. How did you accept to do such a task, a big task, I must say? Please walk us through the bidding process you had to go through. Thank you.
Mm. Yes, thank you so much. I would begin with saying that I'm very excited for the youth coming for the upcoming youth conference. Yes, how did I accept this task? One, I was behind me were so many people, experienced Wikimedians from Uganda, Kenya, Israel, Nigeria. So having all these people at like besides me made me feel like yeah, we can do this. Another thing was a great team of Wikimedians in Rwanda. So I thought with all these people, it was not a big thing for us to organize. That's the first thing. The second thing was being in touch with people who organized the same conference, a similar conference in their countries, and it was a success. So those are one of the things that really made me give it a try and say, oh, why not? Why not Rwanda this time round? So that was the reason why I accepted it. Then the second question of how to take you through the bidding process. So when I attended Wiki Indaba in 2021, on the last day, Bobby announced that the call for people who would wish to host it will be like very soon, because it happened in November and it was saying around January, February of 2022. I was like, okay, why not give it a try? So when the time came, I was in doubt, because I was like, we are a young community, we have not organized such a bigger event. Is this really something we can take up? I didn't apply for the first weeks. I applied when they informed us that we had 1 week to the deadline. That's when we applied for to host, and then after some time, I think it was like after 1 month, we got the message. We got the email asking us if we could accept. At first, I wouldn't believe it. I had to actually cross-check the email, read and reread if to see if what is written is actually what I'm reading. And I inquired from my community members, the core team. They said, yeah, we can do this. And we answered the email saying, yes, we are ready and willing to host Wiki Indaba.
That's interesting, Derek. And if I must say, you were not the only one scared for yourselves. We were scared for you too, because we just heard about you becoming an affiliate. That's Wikimedia Community Rwanda. And the next thing that followed was a Wiki Indaba conference. To an extent, we felt it was, I mean, too much to handle. But then, like you rightly mentioned, having the right team behind you and the right set of people who have relevant experience doing, some of the components that it takes to put together a conference could really be helpful. And thank you for letting us know that it took about a month for the team to get back to you based on their decision. And then, Derek, like I just said, you guys were barely recognized as an athlete uh, before the announcement came for you to organize the 2022 Wiki Indaba. What elements do you believe made your bid successful, despite
Oh,
being a newly recognized community?
oh, thank you. Are you hearing me? I think there was an audio issue. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Yes, that's very true. Actually, we applied to be the hosts of Wiki Indaba before even being informed that we are recognized as an affiliate. So back to the question, why what are some of the elements that really pushed us to apply even though we are not recognized? I think the first element was we were inspired by the nature of our country, Rwanda. Rwanda has become a hub of so many international conferences that were held here, and they were successful, Chogam being one of them. I think the Africa Agricultural Summit, uh, so many summits took place here in Rwanda. So we 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 took inspiration from the country. So if the country has been organizing so many bigger international conferences, why not Wiki Indaba? That was the first thing. The second thing was uh, the safety, security, and the hospitality, because it's one thing to organize a conference, and it's another thing for people to attend, and they are really safe and warmly, and they receive a warm welcome. So those elements really pushed us. Another thing was knowing that so many people would have loved coming in Rwanda for weekend, but most of those that we would talk to, so they would say, "Oh, if it was in Rwanda, I would really love to come." So those are some of the elements that really pushed us and made us feel like, yeah, we can do it.
That's interesting, Derek. To a large extent, yes, I could agree with you that Rwanda was appealing as a location first, and then most people would likely feel at ease, with coming to have the conference or attending the conference in Rwanda than, let's say, some other options, for lack of a name to mention. So yes, but then what I actually like is the you know the fact that you guys were yet to be recognized before you applied. Like you already applied and then later got the recognition. So I didn't know that was possible before now, but thanks for mentioning that. At least with that, maybe future communities open to organize that have not yet organized might also, take up the initiative to do so. Thank you so much for that point, Derek. And then things don't usually go as planned when it comes to organizing a conference as important and as big as Wiki Indaba. What challenges did you and your team encounter, and how did you manage those challenges?
Oh, well, I can't hear you. I don't know if the rest can hear you. I don't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you right now. So what was the question
Okay.
again? Sorry.
Yes, I was making emphasis on the fact that, when planning a conference, especially as big as Wiki Indaba, that things don't usually go as planned. So, what challenges did you and the Rwandan team and the co-organizing team encounter, and how did you navigate around these challenges?
Hmm. Yeah. As the question goes, usually things turn out the way they were not planned. So I think the first challenge we faced in the preparation was the time management. Most of the things happened on the last minute, and the communications kept coming to people on the last minute. Something we really regret, because it happened in so many occasions, and we really regretted that. So the time management was the first challenge. The second thing was we planned an event for 80 people, and we had um, 140 people attending. So you can understand how that changes everything on the last minute. You've planned for 80 people and 140 people are turning up. That was another challenge. And I think the other challenge was we had limited time for excursions or social events where even more people kept coming back and saying, oh, yeah, we had enough time to talk about Wiki Commons, Wiki Source, and so many things. But when do we get time to socialize? So I think that was also another challenge, and not having enough time for people to walk around and explore Rwanda. That was another thing. And the other challenge was that we had we had an initial plan of supporting people with data connectivity, but that didn't go as planned because of the funds. They were limited to only um, people who would attend in person. We even ended up doing it hybrid. I think I know there are people who really spent the first night trying to put in place an alternative for people who wouldn't join in person. So it was challenging, but we are glad that there are some people who were able to follow the conference without being here in Rwanda in person. Um, yes, I think those are some of the challenges we faced, and with um, with a great team of experienced Wikimedians, we were able to pass through these challenges.
Yes, Derrick, the challenges were there, but then we also saw how things were managed. And I can agree with the last minute when it came to doing things. Most things were done last minute. Perhaps that's why they are trying to see whether conferences could be, bidded for and decided 1 year, 2 years, and up to 3 years in advance, if possible, to enable people ample time to plan. And lastly, Derek, a lot of African Wikimedians complained about the scholarship approval rates in particular for the Wiki Indaba 2022 conference. Any idea what's happened around the scholarship approvals? Is there something you feel could have been done or should be done differently in the future?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Actually, I knew it's one of those questions everyone, even I still meet people in different conferences and they ask why was I not selected? Why things like that. But I also thank Wiki in Africa for this chance, because it also helps us, the organizers, to again go back and explain why is it that people get scholarships, others not. Um, this last year's Wiki Indaba was the first conference, if I remember well, happening after Wikimedia Foundation allowed physical events to take place. So that straight away means that so many people wanted to attend an event in person after uh, 2 years. So we received around 208 applications from 28 countries. Yet we were only allowed that we were only allowed 35 application. I mean scholarships. So imagine you're having 208 applications, yet you're supposed to only allow 35. That was a challenge itself. Um, so with a team of around 7 experienced Wikimedians, we're able to do the selection, and then 35 people were selected and 5 were put on the waiting list. Um, and then we also, now for this transparency reasons, we even sent the list to WMF, trust and safety team, to review the names, and they were saying it's okay. So these 35 people represented 28 countries out of the 20 out of the 28. Yes. So this means that for each country that had one representative, you'd see that there are around 50 people behind them who would have also wanted to come to Rwanda. The community would have really wanted to have everyone, the 200 people in Rwanda, but it was not the case. The resources, the planning, and so on was only limited for a few people. So, and this time around, we saw the improvement in the gender representation, where we had around 42% of the applicants being women, and that was around 14 people out of the 35. Um, yes, 15 people out of the 35 being females, something that we really liked, because I think last year it was, no, 2019 it was 40, now 42%. We hope as the time goes on, the number is going to increase. So the scholarship selection process was really hectic, because we had Wikimedians who have been around for 10 years. We had Wikimedians who have been around like for 1 week. We had Wikimedians who had spent 5 years in the movement. Wikimedians who are really experienced in different aspects. Let it be software development, community engagement, facilitating events, and so on. All these people wanting to come for a conference. So it was really tough, but with the help of experienced Wikimedians, we were able to pick out the 35, of which we think and we shall always be grateful that we selected, because these are people who really proved that they deserve to be there. I'm not saying that people who didn't come didn't deserve it, but we are grateful that people who came really played an important role, to the point we said, yeah, you deserve to be here. And we are grateful that some of them are really now creating impact after learning from Wiki Indaba.
Yes, I can speak to the fact that the gender representation was interesting and way better than it was compared to the Wiki Indaba that was held before 2022. And hopefully, who knows, it could get to 50% or 48 or over 50 this year or by next year. And yes, the scholarship process was, I mean, really a tough one. I don't envy anybody who works under the scholarship committee by any means, because it's a tedious work to do. You have to vet and vet. So kudos to the team once again who made that happen. And with that, I say thank you very much, Derrick, for answering the questions raised. And hopefully, as we proceed to the Q&A segment of the episode, somebody will have a question or two for you.
Yes,
And that
maybe I
declares,
could drop something down
okay,
uh,
sure.
for people who apply. For people applying for different events, please expect two things: getting a rejection or getting a message that says, you know what, you have been selected. I applied for different events and I always expect this. So we shouldn't take the scholarship feedback so personal. Thank you.
Thank you, Derrick, for mentioning that. But then, I mean, humans would react to news in different ways. That's what makes everybody human and unique.
Yeah.
So, with that, we open the floor for questions. Please, if you have any questions for the guests, go ahead and ask so that they will answer to your questions before we proceed to the news segment. Okay, Butch is actually making an announcement at this point that you should please check to know if the yellow fever vaccine certification is required should you get to be selected for the scholarship. And in case you can't ask your questions now, please, you can go to the WikiAfrica Hour page. There is a questions segment there, and you can put the question down. We'll make sure that they get back to you with answers. With that, we head to the news updates for this episode. And with me today to share the news updates is Noni.
Hi, Seslaus.
Thank you, Noni, for accepting to do this. Let's start with several news about the International Photo Contest, Wiki Loves Africa. The theme for this year's Wiki Loves Africa contest is climate and weather. If you need a rapid grant to organize Wiki Loves Africa 2023, application deadline is 31st of January for late application. Over to you, Nani.
Thank you, Ses. The dates for the Wiki Loves Africa contest have been finalized. The contest will operate from March 1st till April 30th.
And the Wiki in Africa team is delighted to announce that Wilson Oloha has joined the team as Wiki Loves Africa community facilitator. Please feel free to reach out to him for all Wiki Loves Africa related issues.
We are excited to inform you that the Wikimedia Global Conference, Wikimania 2023, will be happening in Singapore from the 16th until the 19th of August 2023. The Wikimania 2023 scholarship application is still open, and the deadline is the 5th of February.
The 2023 EduWiki Conference scholarship application is still on. Try to apply by 29th January.
Nominations for the 2023 steward elections are on. Interested candidates can check their eligibility and the procedure to submit nominations on the guidelines page. Submissions can be made until January 30th, 2023 at 23:59 UTC.
Wikimedia will soon be applying as a mentoring organization to Google Summer of Code 2023 and Outreach Round 26. If you have some ideas for coding or non-coding, like design, documentation, translation, outreach, research projects, please share.
The voting period for the revised Universal Code of Conduct Enforcement Guidelines is now open. Voting closes at 23:59 UTC on January 31st, 2023. Please visit the voter information page on MetaWiki for voter eligibility information and details on how to vote.
The 9th edition and the first French edition of the monthly Wikimentor Africa event, a program designed to help new and inexperienced developers and programmers in the African communities. We hold on 28th and 29th January. Time is 5 p.m. West African time or 5 p.m. UTC +1. Guys, same. Please try to register to participate.
The Community Development Team at the Wikimedia Foundation is hosting its first community call of the year on Tuesday, January 31st, 2023, from 6 until 7:30 UTC on Zoom.
The Wikimedia Foundation's Community Resources Team and the Middle East and Africa Regional Funding Committee invite you to apply to become a committee member in the Middle East and Africa region. The deadline for applying is February 20th.
Applications for the 2023 Curationist Fellows Program and Critics of Color residency are ongoing. The deadline is 1st of February.
And we are proud to provide the winning results of two of our initiatives. The Wiki Loves Africa 2022 is our campaign ended on 15th of January 2023 with 95,413 contributions made on 15,912 images by 48 contributors. Please view the results.
The Wiki Loves Women She Said campaign ended on the 31st of December 2022 with the Italian Wiki quote raking in the highest contribution. We say a heartfelt thank you to Camelia Boban, lead of Wikidon Initiative, who led the local campaign. Please remember to view the results.
And that brings us to the end of the news updates. And you can view the links to take actions on the respective news updates in the newsroom section on the WikiAfrica Hour meta page. Thank you so much, Nani. As Wikimedians, conferences within the movement have a way of influencing and contributing to the work that we do. I remember the joy on people's faces when we gathered in Kigali, Rwanda for Wiki Indaba 2022 conference. I don't think I had seen such joy on people's faces during virtual conferences. It was like we all needed it in the Wikimedia 2023 is looking promising already by early starts with the scholarships application. And we hope other conferences for the year pick up the same pace in delivery. The Wiki Convention Francophone is coming to Africa for the first time, and this means a lot to the African community. And we can't wait to hear more about how great of an impact it made. Wikimedia Youth Conference definitely has potentials of birthing something new and interesting, and we're eagerly also waiting to witness the first edition debuting this year. I encourage you all to apply for the respective scholarships to attend these conferences. And if you get the opportunity to attend, enjoy it to the fullest. Also be kind enough to share your experience with those who wouldn't be in attendance. We are, in short, all looking forward to a successful and amazing 2023 set of gatherings towards building a greater Wikimedia movement. On behalf of the Wiki in Africa team, I say a big thank you to you, Derrick, Ndahiro. Though Emmanuelle couldn't make it because of internet connections, but then I'm actually glad that we exchanged emails at least. And thank you also, Gnangarra, Butch, Bustria, and Vanj, Padilla. And also to you, Euphemia, Uwandu, for finding time in your very busy schedule to be here with us today. I also say a very big thank you to everybody who found time to tune in and follow the session online. I remain your host, Cesla Sobonaya, and I wish you a happy weekend. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel to keep up with future episodes of Wiki Africa Hour. Thank you.
This episode of WikiAfrica Hour was hosted by Ceslaus Obanaya. Let us know what topics you want to discuss and join us next month on the same channels. Subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel and follow WikiAfrica on social media.